The end of a relationship is something that's hard to explain, especially when it comes unexpectedly. It's not like you ever plan for it to happen, and when it does, it doesn't feel real. You keep waiting for the moment when you can wake up from it, like it's some kind of bad dream. But that's the thing about heartbreak. It doesn't give you that luxury. When it hits, it's like your whole world shifts on its axis, and you're left spinning, trying to find your balance. I never imagined this would be my story. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I had everything planned out. We had everything planned out. Or at least I thought we did. She was my person. I've never been one to throw around the word soulmate, but with her, I thought it fit. For over a year and a half, we shared everything. Our dreams, our fears, our hopes, and the little moments that made life worth living. We had built something together. And then, in one swift motion, I realized that it was all gone. She was 21, I was 20. We were both in college, still navigating the chaos of school, life, and trying to figure out who we were. It was tough, but it wasn't impossible. I had to leave for the summer, though. The school's housing fees were astronomical, and I couldn't afford to stay, so I went back home for 4 months. She stayed behind to work at a low-paying job that, though it didn't bring in much money, gave her some sense of independence. It was during this time, when I was miles away, that the cracks in our relationship started to show. I didn't know it then, but that's when it started. At her job, she met him, just a coworker at first. I didn't think much of it, but she started talking about him more often. He was friendly, funny, and a little older than the other people she worked with. I remember her telling me how he was the only one who made her feel safe when the other, much older coworker started making crude, unsettling comments. Instead of confronting him directly, she turned to this coworker for support. At first, I told myself it was harmless. After all, it wasn't like she had anywhere else to go, and the guy seemed like a safe option for her to talk to. I didn't feel threatened, not at first. But then things changed. Slowly at first, then suddenly. I wasn't there, and she was alone a lot. She started spending more time with him, texting him more, confiding in him more. And I was thousands of miles away, thinking everything was fine, only calling her every night, desperate to stay connected despite the distance. It didn't feel like anything was wrong until I started getting that sinking feeling in my chest. I started to notice little things, how she seemed distracted when we talked, how she didn't pick up the phone sometimes, how she said, "I love you," a little less often. She didn't even seem to notice when I pointed it out, but deep down, I knew something was off. But I pushed it to the back of my mind, convincing myself that everything was fine, that it was just my insecurities playing tricks on me. And then, the bombshell came. We had just signed a lease for an apartment together. It felt like the start of something new, something that could turn into the next chapter in our lives. We talked about it for months, how we would decorate the place, what furniture we needed, how nice it would be to finally live together. We talked about spending a year together, uninterrupted, without the complications of school and distance. It was supposed to be our fresh start, a way for us to build something even stronger. The first day I returned to the city, I found out everything. She had been cheating on me for weeks. I walked into our new apartment, ready to start our life together, and instead I was hit with the cold truth. She had already been seeing him for a while, talking to him, texting him, meeting him behind my back. And while I thought everything was fine between us, she had already decided it wasn't. I could hardly process it at first. It didn't feel real. I kept telling myself that maybe I was mistaken, that I was jumping to conclusions. But the signs were everywhere. She'd been lying to me, pretending like everything was okay when it was anything but. She had made her choice, and it wasn't me. I didn't know what to do. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. This was my worst nightmare, one I never saw coming. She was the one person I trusted, the one person I thought I could rely on. And here I was, standing in an apartment we'd picked out together, wondering how I had missed all the signs. How could I have been so blind? I tried to confront her, but the words felt hollow. I asked her how long it had been going on, how she could do this to me after everything we'd been through. She didn't seem to have the same sense of guilt or remorse I expected. She seemed distant, cold, and defensive. There were no real answers, just more lies and half-truths. I moved out that day. What choice did I have? The apartment that was supposed to be our new home had already turned into a place of betrayal. I couldn't stay there, not with her. But even though I physically left, she stayed with me in my thoughts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him. Every time I woke up, I thought about how she had thrown me away without a second thought. I should hate her. I wanted to. She had hurt me in a way I didn't think was possible. She had torn apart everything we had built. She had lied to me, betrayed me, and left me wondering if I was just some fool in her story. But despite all of that, I couldn't. I still loved her. I loved her the way you love someone who has become a part of you. And no matter how much I wanted to hate her, the love was still there, buried beneath the anger and the pain. I couldn't understand why she did it. We had our issues, sure, but nothing that should have led to this. I thought we were in a good place. I thought we were happy. And maybe we were, but clearly she wasn't. And instead of telling me, instead of being honest about her feelings, she went behind my back, hid things from me, and let it go on until it was too late. I tried to block her out, tried to move on. People told me I should forget her, find someone who would appreciate me, someone who wouldn't hurt me. But it wasn't that easy. You don't just stop loving someone because they've hurt you. You don't just flip a switch and erase the person you spent so much time with, the person you trusted with your heart. The pain felt endless, like it would never stop. I kept thinking about all the moments we had shared, the good and the bad. I remembered the late night talks, the way we used to laugh, how she made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. And then I remembered how it all came crashing down, how she left me standing in the rubble of our relationship, wondering where it all went wrong. There were days when I didn't want to get out of bed, when the thought of facing the world without her seemed impossible. I thought about what she had done to me, and the pain felt so overwhelming that I didn't know how to handle it. I thought about doing things to myself, not because I wanted to die, but because the pain was too much to carry alone. But I knew that wasn't the answer. It wouldn't bring her back, and it wouldn't make me feel better. So I kept going. I kept waking up every day, even when it felt like everything was falling apart. I tried to focus on the things that mattered: school, friends, my future. I tried to rebuild myself, piece by piece. But even with all the distractions, she still haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had lost something irreplaceable, and it hurt in ways I couldn't put into words. Eventually, I began to realize that I had to let go. Holding on to her, to the hope that she would change or that she would come back, wasn't helping me. It was only keeping me stuck in the past, trapped in the memory of a love that no longer existed. I had to learn to let go, to forgive myself for not seeing the signs, and to accept that some things were just beyond my control. Maybe one day, I'll be able to look back on this and see it for what it really was. An experience that taught me more about myself than I ever expected. Maybe I'll be able to love again, without fear of being hurt, without the shadow of betrayal hanging over me. But for now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to put the pieces back together. And maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to forgive her and move on.